I've been married to the campus goddess for 10 years, but she's never called me husband. The day she was kidnapped, our friends and family were all in a hurry to distance themselves. Even her parents stayed far away. Only I stepped forward. I took her place and dove into that dungeon filled with ice-cold water. When she finally gathered the ransom, she was holding tightly onto her first love's hand. I'm going to pay to get him out. I stood there, drenched, staring at her. Then suddenly, I burst out laughing. If you hadn't married me back then, would you have lived a more peaceful life? Her eyes reddened and she lowered her head. She tugged at her first love's sleeve and walked out. Sorry. Watching them leave hand in hand, I suddenly felt like I had wasted all these years. When the kidnapper pointed the gun at her, I dashed forward, trying to block the barrel. Blood surged from my throat. Now, between the two of you, there will be no more annoying me. When I woke up again, I was standing in the playground where I confessed to her 10 years ago. This time, I turned around and ran. I wiped away every trace of her from my phone. But then the big screen in the mall suddenly flickered. She appeared in a wedding dress on the screen. Tears streamed down her face, like pearls broken from a necklace. He Kong, without you, I'll never be happy. Soon, our Yuyan arrived, looking stylish. She told me to change out of my sportswear. I could hear my dad's voice scolding me in my ear. I pressed on the spot where the bullet passed through. There was no hole. I had been reborn. This was the day when Liu Ruyan came to the Liu family to select a marriage candidate. I should immediately get up, tidy myself up, and make sure to leave the best impression when she arrives. After all, for 4 years of university, everyone knew I had a secret crush on her, only she didn't know. So in my past life, when she chose me among all the men of the Liu family, I thought I was dreaming. But now, I simply ran my fingers through my messy hair, yawned, and realized, Dad, you can go out now. Alright, make sure you look neat. Ruyan doesn't like men who are disheveled. My father left my room satisfied. He knew, but he was wrong. However, Liu Ruyan had never truly smiled at me. Not even in bed, when she would never call me husband. She once looked at me with tears in her eyes and asked, do I really have to be stuck with you for the rest of my life? I once asked her, if I had met you first, would you have loved me the same way you loved him? I never got an answer. But one simple word, sorry, already spoke volumes. Since happiness cannot be forced, then we should just move on and find peace. There happens to be a business opportunity in the port city with vast prospects. In 10 years, its market value has grown several times. Now is the right time to seize it. I packed my things, opened my phone, and the smile of Liu Ruyan on the wallpaper stung my eyes. It turns out, when she hadn't married me, her smile was so bright, so passionate. I remembered the tears in her eyes from my past life. I opened my contacts and clicked on Liu Hegi's chat box. 3203 Jiangjing Avenue. I'm going to confess to her. Not long after, Liu Hegi sent a question mark. Are you crazy? I'm not lying to you. Today is the day she's coming to the Liu family to pick a marriage candidate. She doesn't like any man besides you. You know that. The Liu family is also considered a branch of the Liu family. If Liu Ruyan chooses him, it would still count as a marriage alliance between the two families. But the Liu family is on the brink of bankruptcy. A marriage alliance between the two families wouldn't benefit Liu Ruyan at all. So I discussed it with my father and decided to exclude the Liu family. I admit I have my selfish reasons. I know, as long as Liu Hegi is around, I won't stand a chance. But later, my wife, with tears in her eyes, looked at me. I'm yours for this lifetime. Are you happy now? I'm not happy. In this life, let's just set each other free. I disguised myself, blending in with the guests, and looked at Liu Ruyan at the event. She was still as cold and distant as in my previous life. It seemed that, except for Liu Hegi, no other man could catch her eye. After rejecting the last cousin, she impatiently looked toward the door and asked, then turned to my father. Uncle Gu, has everyone arrived? Dad smiled. Well, there's still one who hasn't come. Ruyin, don't be anxious. I'm not anxious. She sat there. The light once again fell toward the door. In my past life, she looked at the door in the same way, longing for the arrival of the one she loved. Till much later, when she still hadn't waited, she lifted her hand and pointed at me. Her voice was as faint as dead ash. Then it's her simple, perfunctory remark. I had risked life and death for her year after year. I sent Liu Hegi a message. Still not here? In the next second, the big door was pushed open. The two of them locked eyes. They both fell into each other's gaze. It seemed like in the previous life, they were destined to meet at this moment. I gave a faint smirk, pressed down the brim of my hat, and turned to leave. Liu Ruyin, without me, you can finally be happy, right? I silently whispered to you. Congratulations, thank you, but I don't plan on marrying you. When Liu Ruyin said this, all the guests in the room were stunned. Who didn't know that Liu Hegi was her white moonlight? But I had already left. Completely unaware of what was happening at the scene, Liu Hegi also thought he had misheard. Ruyin, you've rejected everyone from the Liu family. Except for me. Do you still have someone else to choose? Liu Ruyin turned to look at my father. Uncle, has Ah Kong not arrived? My father was surprised. Liu Ruyin had always been indifferent to me. Even in my past life, she had always addressed me by my full name. This was the first time she had dropped my surname. That child, he just went out for a bit due to some urgent matter. Liu Ruyin froze. What could be more important than being engaged to me? My father wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. It's fine. Uncle Gu. Liu Ruyin sat back down again. I'll wait for him to come back. My father forced a smile. Ruyin, there are so many good men in the Liu family. Why must you choose him? I only want him. Liu Ruyin smiled faintly. When he comes back, I'll get engaged to him. Uncle Gu. My father wiped his forehead again. Ruyin, maybe you should stop waiting. Why? Liu Ruyin blinked. Didn't he love me the most? My father initially thought the same way, till I packed my bags to say goodbye to him. Then he was stunned, though he was extremely displeased with my sudden departure. After my mother passed away, he had indulged me. In the end, he nodded and let me go. My father didn't know how to answer for a moment. But Liu Hegi couldn't hold back any longer. Ruyin, he doesn't love you at all. Don't let him deceive you. If you don't believe me, look. He showed her the chat logs, seeing the conversation above. Liu Ruyin abruptly stood up. In disbelief, she grabbed the phone, her voice trembling. He asked you to confess to me? Liu Hegi nodded. He never really liked you. It was all just an act for you. I saw how hurriedly he left. Maybe he already has someone he likes. That's impossible. Liu Ruyin's eyes flickered as she looked at Liu Hegi. The distrust in her eyes stunned him for a moment. A Kong would never treat me like this. Uncle Gu. Liu Ruyin looked at my father. Please stop joking around. As soon as he Kong comes out, I'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with him to get the certificate. I swear, as the eldest daughter of the Liu family. Ruyin, it's not that Uncle Gu is intentionally stopping you from meeting him. It's just that. My father hesitated for a moment. He said that he never wants to see you again in this lifetime. The veins on Liu Ruyin's hand bulged as she clenched it. She opened her phone and went to her contacts. She couldn't believe it. How could he possibly not want to see me? He clearly loved me the most. It wasn't until the sent message was rejected that she finally swayed. nearly losing her balance. She looked at the red exclamation mark in disbelief. Her breath trembled. It wasn't the Liu family. The man's surname is Liu now, the white moonlight of Liu's goddess. Did you forget? Right, of course. It's the one from the Liu family who kept pestering me. If I were the goddess, I'd be cursed to death. I wore my sunglasses and dragged my suitcase, waiting for a ride on the side of the road. I overheard a conversation from some passers-by. I couldn't help but smile wryly. That pestering man from the Liu family, no more of that. This life is better lived with freedom. Living carefree and untethered. I heard Liu's goddess specially prepared a big screen for today. It's on the tallest building. I heard it costs 100,000 for just 10 seconds. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache coming on, though I had already let go of her. But seeing her and Liu Hagi showing off their love, I couldn't help but feel a tightness in my chest. Just as I was about to turn away, a pair of tear-filled eyes suddenly entered my line of sight. He Kong, without you, I won't be happy. I thought I had seen it wrong. I pulled down my sunglasses slightly. The woman who once cried because of marrying me was now crying harder than ever before. He Kong, I came here today for you. As long as you come back, I'll go with you to the Civil Affairs Bureau immediately. I swear to you. It seemed I really had gone mad. Liu Ruyan was actually willing to go with me to get the certificate. It must be that her sensory system hadn't fully recalibrated after being reborn. He Kong, I know you can hear me. Doesn't matter if you don't respond. I will find you. Some people were discussing it. Did I hear that right? The goddess is confessing to that dogged admirer? Actually, they do seem to be quite well matched. It's just that the goddess doesn't like him. That dogged admirer always pestering her isn't good either. Have you heard? A dogged admirer will eventually get everything they want. Looks like this one from the Liu family succeeded in getting what he wanted. I slapped my face to snap myself out of it. I double-checked the big screen to confirm it was really Liu Ruyan. But how could this be possible? Had she really fallen in love with me? The moment that thought crossed my mind, I slapped myself. I was really going insane. Hadn't I suffered enough in the previous life? It seemed Liu Ruyan was even more pragmatic than I had imagined. In order to secure the greatest benefit from a family marriage, she could still tolerate being with someone she didn't like. At this thought, a chill ran through me. The taxi had arrived. I opened the door and left that place behind. Just after getting out of the car, someone pointed at me. It's him! Quick, catch him! I froze for a moment. I saw a group of people rushing toward me. And only then did I realize they were after me. Without thinking, I grabbed my suitcase and ran. I barely managed to hide in a convenience store. The clerk glanced at me for a second, then suddenly pointed at me. He Kong! Oh my god, you actually came right to my door. In a panic, I ran out of the store, not knowing where to go. I hid in a narrow alley. Only then could I take out my phone and check the news. As soon as I opened the app, the glaring bounty on the trending list stabbed at my eyes. What had happened to Liu Ruyan when we were together? The thing she regretted most was marrying me. Now that I was giving her happiness, why did she have to keep pestering me again? I pulled up my collar to cover half my face and put my sunglasses on even tighter. I walked briskly toward the airport. He Kong! The familiar voice sent a chill down my spine. I knew I hadn't misheard. It was the same voice that had called my name countless times in my past life. He Kong! How long are you going to keep running from me? The sound of high heels echoed behind me. She was running fast. So fast that I felt trapped. I gave the order, and the taxi sped off. I glanced back. No one was following. I let out a breath of relief, but a sudden brake sent me crashing into the front seat. Customer! Someone's blocking the way. I hurriedly looked over. the license plate number. It was Liu Ruyan's customer. You'd better get out of the car. I'm not taking this ride anymore. The driver, seeing the Beijing 88 number plate, was so scared that he hurriedly asked me to get out. I didn't hesitate. I got out and ran toward the residential area. That narrow place was too tight for a sports car to enter. He Kong, stop right there. As expected, Liu Ruyan got out of the car and chased after me. She'd bitten the bait. I turned back, opened the door of the sports car, and sat in the driver's seat. I'm just borrowing it. I'll return it to you when we get to the airport. I threw this sentence at the driver and floored the accelerator, speeding away. I thought I'd finally managed to escape from Liu Ruyan, but when the deafening roar of an engine blared in my ears, I couldn't help but feel nervous for her. Racing against a sports car? Was she crazy? She wore a helmet and signaled me to stop. Stop! Not a chance. To make her give up, I floored the accelerator again, and at the highest speed, I left her far behind. Trying to catch up in this situation would be like asking for death. But just as I thought I'd won, a black shadow shot past me from the side. I was stunned. The motorcycle overtook me, and with a sharp turn, stopped right in front of me. I was about to crash into her. With one swift stomp on the brake, my head slammed hard into the airbag. The door of the sports car was pulled open. She slid into the driver's seat, taking my place. I knew you couldn't bring yourself to crash me. I leaned back against the passenger seat, feeling completely drained. What do you want from me? She tilted her head to look at me, a playful smile tugging at her lips. You've been avoiding me. Are you afraid that if you see me again, you'll still feel something? Her words froze me in place. Could it be she had been reborn too? What's the point of pestering me like this? I was growing impatient. A fleeting shadow of sadness passed through her eyes, but it was gone in an instant. He Kong, admit it. You're just afraid that your feelings for me will reignite, that I'll have you wrapped around my finger again. Bullshit! Then are you brave enough to let me accompany you to Hong Kong? I was taken aback. She flashed me a smile, and for a moment I was thrown off. Had she really smiled at me? You're going there for investment anyway. So, are you afraid I'll follow you, and that you won't be able to control yourself? Her tactic of provoking me had always been effective. I grabbed my lighter in frustration, lit a cigarette right in front of her. She froze for a moment, but didn't make the disgusted face she had in the previous life. Instead, her expression was unreadable. I had quit smoking for her for 10 years, but now I exhaled the smoke in a circle. Fine, I'll go, but don't hold me back. She didn't seem bothered by the smoke swirling around me. To my surprise, she leaned toward me, closer than I expected. Then you're the one who can't hold back. Hey, Hong Kong, Liu Ruyan was more familiar with it than I was, because in the previous life, Liu Hegi worked there. I had once suggested we travel to Hong Kong together, even wrote a 30,000-word travel guide for it. But all I got from her was a cold response. Is it fun? I don't have time to play with you. This time arriving in Hong Kong, she was suddenly full of enthusiasm, pointing at Victoria Harbor. She said, the lights are at their best at this hour. Look, I wasn't paying much attention. It was just ... whatever. Day, she dragged me to Disneyland. We played from the entrance to the exit. Why don't you smile? If you don't, the photos won't look good. I yawned. Because you dragged me here against my will. I'm just not interested. She paused for a moment, but still managed a smile. The next day, she took me to Victoria Peak. Standing at the highest point of the city, looking down over all of Hong Kong. You used to say you liked hiking the most. It's all right. She glanced at me, her eyes full of confusion. I remember you saying you wanted to come. Did I? I ran my hand through my wine-tousled hair. not caring at all about the image I was presenting in front of her. I don't remember. It wasn't until we were at the Tiatan Buder that it finally clicked in my mind. The route she had planned for the trip. It was identical to the detailed itinerary I made in my previous life. It was a shame, though. The journey had only become interesting because of the company. What I cared about was never the scenery. As for the version of her I once wanted, it had long since faded away. After she paid her respects, she placed the incense into the incense holder. Looking at the statue, she asked me, "Kong, are you happy being with me?" "Not happy." "You can't lie in front of the Buddha." She tilted her head to look at me. "Not happy." She pressed her lips together. Her smile seemed forced. "In the past, you were the one who wanted me to come with you." "Yeah, but everything is too late now." The smoke from the incense curled up. Her voice fell softly. "All right then. I understand." After a pause, she continued, "But I won't give up." She looked at me. In front of the Buddha, "I won't lie." I lowered my gaze. Her clear eyes captured my attention, making me feel a sudden pang of guilt. It was as if I had returned to the day I first met her. These eyes, like a flash of light, pierced through my heart. From that moment on, my entire life had been devoted to her. But that was all in the past. It's over now. Do as you wish. I won't be with you. Whenever you regret it, you can leave on your own. I turned to walk away. To my surprise, Liu Yuyan left even faster than I had imagined. The next day when I opened my eyes, she was already gone without a trace. I called, but no one answered, although I had already let go of her. Out of basic human decency, I still reached out through my connections to find her. Staring at the silent chat box, a sense of unease began to creep up on me. A few days later, when my business matters were finished, she was still nowhere to be found. Could something really have happened to her? I couldn't help but furrow my brows, until I received news from the mainland, telling me she had already returned. Only then did I finally relax a bit, as long as she's fine. But when I got off the plane, and passed by the park on my way home, two familiar figures made me pause in my tracks. Liu Yuyan and Lu Higui's silhouettes. I wouldn't mistake them. The breeze brushed through Liu Yuyan's hair, landing gently on Lu Higui's fingertips. I heard him gently ask, "He doesn't want you." "I do." A sharp, piercing sensation spread from the core of my heart. Although I had long decided to sever ties with Liu Yuyan, in reality, when she mysteriously disappeared, I had still felt a vague sense of worrying. If she had just been retreating from me and going her separate way, I wouldn't have felt much about it. But for her to disappear without a word, only to return to Lu Higui and simultaneously show me such deep affection, it was something I couldn't accept. It made me recall my failed past life. Forget it. There should be no more connections with her. She is the karmic entanglement of my entire existence. I didn't alert them. Slipping away quietly, I erased every trace she left behind. From this point on, I will have no ties to the past. The business deal in Port City was already settled. From now on, it's only profit with no losses. With those matters completed, I started thinking about traveling. In my past life, I had chosen Port City because Liu Yuyan loved it there. But the place I truly wanted to go was somewhere else. Now that I had no one to travel with, I would go on my own and see the world I've always dreamed of. But on the day I was about to leave, Liu Yuyan knocked on my door again. "How much longer are you going to do this?" I was getting impatient. But Liu Yuyan stood there, hands behind her back, leaning forward with a smile as she looked at me. "Don't you remember? Today is my birthday." I rubbed my temples. "Go find Lu Higui for your birthday. Why come to me?" "But you're my husband." A shiver ran down my spine. "I'm not. And there's something else. I've already severed ties with you. Don't bother me anymore." I grabbed my suitcase and started to leave. But she suddenly grabbed my arm. Kong, are you done yet? I turned around and shrugged her hand off. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not with you anymore. No more ties. You wanted your freedom in the past, didn't you? Well, now I've given it to you. Why are you still clinging to me? Didn't Liu Gui give you what you wanted? My voice had risen, attracting the attention of my father. When he saw Yu Yan's eyes were red at the corners. He hurriedly gave me a punch. Little brat, how can you treat Yu Yan like that? The Gu and Liu families have been family friends for generations. My father had always considered Liu Yan almost like a daughter. As I dodged my father's punch, I tried to explain. I didn't mean to hurt her. She just won't let me go. Oh, uncle, please stop. My father's punch was blocked by Liu Yan. She turned to face me. Kong, this is the last time I'm asking you. As long as you let me follow you, give me one last birthday. After midnight, I won't cling to you anymore. I rubbed my forehead. Really? She raised her right hand. I swear, as the eldest daughter of the Liu family, I thought for a moment. All right then, you better keep your word. After today, you're not allowed to cling to me again. Her eyes sparkled. She rushed up and hugged my arm. Then let's go. I felt a tingling sensation all over my body, especially since it was Liu Yan of all people. It's really rare to see a girl hug someone so affectionately in such a clingy manner, although I had many grievances with her. This was, after all, the last time we'd spend together, and since today was her birthday, I didn't treat her too harshly. In fact, when we passed by a street vendor, I pointed at a hand-woven red string and asked, "Do you like it? I'll buy it for you." I didn't expect her to actually agree. Such a cheap trinket, I figured it wouldn't catch her eye. Besides, I was just saying it casually. But she smiled and nodded. I thought I had heard wrong. You actually like this kind of thing? Everything you buy, I like. For a moment, I bought the red string. I put it on her wrist. She raised her arm in front of my eyes, showing me the red bean on the string. Do you know what this means? No idea. I answered carelessly. Silly. She tapped my head with her fingertip. Have you never heard of it? Linglong like red beans. Do you know that they carry the longing of the heart? I froze, unable to handle her clingy, soft demeanor anymore. Those words should be for Liu Gui, not me. I can't accept sharing a sweet word with another person. She smiled lightly, not paying it any mind, seeing how much she cherished a mere few dollar red string. I felt a pang of guilt. Let's go shopping. I'll pay for everything. Is this your gift to me? She blinked. Actually, I haven't had dinner yet. A light laugh escaped her lips. She hugged my shoulder. You don't need to stay with me. I've already prepared everything. The hotel door opened. The giant birthday cake and piles of gifts filled the entire room. I froze for a moment. This is ... A gift from someone else? No! Everything's prepared by me. I pointed to myself. Me! But today is your birthday. Liu Yan smiled, her eyes softening. Yes. This is my way of making up for your birthday. You should take a look. The birthday gifts were neatly categorized, each pile labeled with an age. From birth, 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, all the way to 32. 30-. In my past life, Liu Yan and I got married at 22. 10 years later, I died for her. I had celebrated more than a decade of birthdays with her, but she never once remembered mine. She was making up for the birthdays I missed in my past life. It was supposed to be your birthday. So why are you celebrating for someone else instead? I looked at her. Are you touched? She tilted her head and looked at me. Am I? I replied indifferently. Anyone would be moved if someone did that for them. Not just you, it's the same for anyone. The implication was clear. I wouldn't change my mind just because of her gesture. I know! She lowered her gaze. I didn't expect to make you change your mind. Her tone carried a hint of melancholy. Listening to her somewhat desolate tone. So what do you want then? I'll give it to you. Then ... It seemed like she had been waiting for this sentence. Accompany me to a Buddhist temple. I accompanied her as she lit incense in the temple. She took out a ring. Its design resembled the wedding ring from our past life. Kong, I still have one wish. Could you put it on for me? I furrowed my brow. What is this? Are you asking me to propose? Ha ha ha! She laughed. Would you? You can't lie in front of Buddha. I shook my head. I won't. She smiled still, but sighed softly. I knew you would say that. Don't worry. It doesn't hold any special meaning. I just wanted you to put the ring on for me. I swear in front of Buddha. Once midnight passes, I won't bother you again. Sighing. I placed the ring on her finger. She admired it. Gently leaning against me, my body stiffened. In the final moment, I didn't pull away. Kong, I love you. I replied indifferently. You can't lie in front of Buddha. That's why I came here to tell you. Crazy. I furrowed my brow. At first, I really didn't like you. But 10 years. Even a stone would be warmed by time. Stop. Hearing about the past life was enough to stir my emotions. I didn't want to hear any more. She always had the effortless ability to toy with other people's feelings. I didn't lie to you. Kong, she leaned against my shoulder. Her eyes were on the lights twinkling far below the mountain. I know you hate me, and I don't ask for your forgiveness. My greatest birthday wish is still that you'll find happiness for the rest of your life. Why are you acting so strange today? I lowered my gaze, and then I noticed a few droplets of blood on the back of my hand. Liu Ryan. I pulled her into my arms. There was still blood at the corner of her mouth. Let me take you to the hospital. Just as I was about to lift her up, she raised her hand and pressed it down on me. No! It's too late. It's midnight. The bell of the Buddhist temple rang. My breath trembled slightly. Midnight. What's wrong? My time's up. In my past life, I should have died long ago. This lifetime with you was a life I begged for. What did you say? Kong. The corner of her mouth, stained with blood, curved slightly. She raised the hand with the ring on it. Thank you for putting the ring on my finger. I really love you. I love you so much. Her hand rested in mine. Between our palms was the slick warmth of fresh blood. In her eyes, the lights of 1,000 homes shimmered. I just want time to stop forever. At this moment, the person in my arms had fallen silent. My hand stiffened. And suddenly, I felt a hollow emptiness in my chest. Liu Ryan epilogue. I knew very early on that I was just a character in a novel. By a twist of fate, I came to know my ending. And that ending was being shot through the heart by kidnappers. But the sad thing is, by this time, I had already fallen in love with Kong. I wanted to start accepting the love he had given me, to bear his children and grow old with him. Yet fate played a cruel joke on me. Thinking about how little time I had left in this life, I looked at the man sleeping beside me. My fingers lightly traced the sharp contours of his face. Tears began to fall. When I added it all up, I realized when I die, he would be 32 years old. His life would still be long. So let him hate me. Let me become the poisonous woman in his heart with only the moonlight. That way, when I'm gone, he can let go of me quickly. I burned all the birthday gifts I had prepared for him in the furnace. Even the roses he gave me will fade. Then, when he came home and saw the roses withered, he let out a cold laugh. No matter how many roses there are, they can never grow love. Stop wasting your energy. The day the kidnappers took me, I never expected he would die for me. So when I hated someone, I chose not to go with Luhi. I knew the plot would unfold this way. The kidnapper's ransom target was me. He wanted me to pay for the hostage. It's just that he wants to take my assets before I die. That bullet will pass through my chest as I walk away with Luhi. I had no regrets. When he saw me choose another man, he would surely let me go. But what I didn't expect was for him to break free from the plot and stand in front of the gunfire. I had made a pact with the system to rewind everything back to the way it was, even though he had blocked my death. This lifetime could span 100 years, but I couldn't accept that. I wanted to save him, even if I could only live until my next birthday. But I never imagined that he would be reborn too. This is fine. We still have a few months together. In the past life, I made him chase me for so long. In this life, what's wrong with me chasing him? If I can't catch him, that's okay. After all, I'm a dying person. As long as I can relive the beautiful moments with him, that would be enough. Even if it's just for a moment. The most important thing is to say the words I couldn't say in my past life. I love you. I cannot lie before the Buddha. Habi, I love you. This lifetime, you want to live a long life. Wishing you happiness, longevity, and good health.